All right, it is time for our schlong. And our schlong today is about grandparents helping their adult kids with their grandkids. So I guess I can kick this off by saying I was blessed in the grandparent department. I don't know what I would have done without my parents helping me, especially with Thomas, who of course was a handful for all kinds of reasons, but
Hmm.
with Jackson too. And I genuinely have no idea how I would have survived parenting without them. Now, of course, they moved to Tucson now like 3 years ago. I don't even know how long it's been. So they've not been obviously as involved as they used to be. But the main part of the growing up time and when Thomas was living at home, I genuinely do not know what I would have done without them. And apparently that's becoming less of a thing with boomers, according to, you found a couple of videos, and I can just play them unless you want to say something before I do.
No, I was just saying, like, I didn't have the same experience as you. I mean, look, we have mothers, my husband and I, we have mothers, and they lived sort of close in proximity when our daughter was a baby. But, I mean, they didn't do like childcare and stuff like that. We just didn't, we didn't rely on them for that kind of stuff. We just have never really had a lot of help. And I don't begrudge them for that. You know what I mean? It's just they were doing their things. They were both still working. And I think maybe that was part of it, is they weren't retired yet. And, we're kind of in that position now where we have a grandchild who lives in another city, and we see the grandchild, whenever we can see your grandson, Henry. But, we both work, and then we also have a 14-year-old. So I think our kids, I say kids plural because we have a son as well who is he doesn't have a kid yet, but I feel like that's going to be happening soon. But they know that, like, it's a little bit different when you're not retired and you don't have all this free time, and, you're not of a place financially and also logistically to, like, just kind of drop everything and be like, okay, well, we can be there, and we can actually, like, provide childcare. I think a lot of millennials now expect their parents to be their daycare.
Yeah.
And that is, we definitely couldn't do that because we have a life, so we couldn't do. And I know that, my mom at the time, she worked a full-time job. So did my mother-in-law. So there's no way that they could do that. I would never expect them to do that. And they saw my daughter as much as they could. And that was great. And so she was there. She had present grandmothers, but that expectation is a little unnerving to me. I think that's a little bit weird. And I don't think you ever expected it.
I mean, I got very used to it. I'll say
Right.
that, because I was so fortunate. And my mom, I mean, she was also full-time at Lilly back in the day when she was
Yeah.
doing a lot of things for me with Thomas. She would let us, my husband and I, go on trips,
Yeah.
and would take care. Like, she did so much. And she wanted us to be able to
To do
live
the
full
things.
lives and not be, it is, I don't want to use the word burden about my son, but in many ways it is a tremendous struggle to have a child with super special needs that
Right.
requires round the clock care. And so she wanted to give us a break, which we desperately needed a
And
lot of the
I
time.
think your case was a little bit different.
Yeah.
I think it's a little different when you have a child with special needs, and perhaps that was part of it. But,
Yeah.
with us, we didn't have that. We just didn't have that. And now we don't have any family here. And I think, kind of like this week, I was telling you, there's a lot of stuff going on, like with surgery, and we're trying to get, and when you don't have family around, you don't have help, and you're used to not having help, you just become like this little unit of, what are we going to do? How are we going to, and you rely on friends. You rely on, like, you find a village of people to help you, because I never had family help me ever. We just don't, my husband and I both. And so it's just really different for us. So when I see these millennials go, it's kind of like, your turn, boomers. You're supposed to be helping. I get a little, bristly about that, because it's, sometimes a lot of these older people, because of the economy, they're still working, because there are a lot of balls in play, if you will,
Right.
and so it's not like they don't owe you anything. They
Mhm.
only owed you parenting. They owed you bringing you up and making
Right.
sure that you were independent. They don't owe you childcare. You know what I mean? They owe you
Yeah.
loving your kids and loving their grandkids, but they don't owe you childcare, free childcare. I get a little bristly.
So here's one of the videos that you found about just this story in general.
Yeah.
A dad is calling out his boomer parents for never helping with their grandkids, despite having leaned on their own parents his entire childhood. In a Reddit post, he shared that his parents just kind of can't be bothered with their grandkids, even though they know firsthand how much help parents need when their kids are small. His grandparents took him and his sister to school every single day without fail, and they had sleepovers with grandma and grandpa every Friday that he can remember. That's a lot of grandparental involvement, and they had a very close relationship because of it. But now that it's his boomer parents' turn to be grandma and grandpa, they're barely in contact with their grandkids. They text about once a month and only see them on holidays. And not only do they never even offer to help, but when this dad asked his parents for help, they flat out told him no, saying they were retired and don't plan on doing anything, let alone help with grandkids. And he's definitely not alone in this. Several parents on Reddit chimed in to express similar frustrations with their boomer parents. And while absent boomer grandparents may not necessarily be the rule, mental health professionals say that their millennial clients are constantly saying that they feel abandoned by their boomer parents now that they have kids of their own. And this stings particularly hard given the fact that not only are childcare costs now untenable for most parents, but at least compared to the rest of us, boomers are flush with cash. Though they're feeling the economic crunch too, especially as they approach retirement. Boomers own half the wealth in this country, according to the Federal Reserve. But ultimately, the people suffering most from these absent boomer grandparents are the grandchildren themselves, who not only miss out on important bonding time, but also have to deal with their parents' stress from the lack of help. The proverbial village it takes to raise a child seems to be eroding fast, and only time will tell the impact it's having.
Before I do that, would you guys mind if I just gave a plug for our friends at Field of Greens? This
Fog.
stuff. Fogchicks.com to be exact. So if you're taking a multivitamin, a supplement, hopefully from one of our sponsors, you're doing that. It's not enough. Just because you're taking a multivitamin does not mean you stop eating good food, right? Like you don't stop eating protein. You don't stop eating fruits and vegetables. The problem is it's impossible to eat as many fruits and vegetables as what they recommend. And it's a crazy amount. But even when you're taking care of yourself exercise-wise and you're taking your multivitamin, you still need the nutrients that come from fruits and veggies. And this is your cheat way of getting those nutrients. This is a green powder that you just throw in 8 ounces of water, or you can make a smoothie out of it or take it however you want. You can drink it as a delicious fruit juice. That's what I do. It is amazing. It tastes like blueberry, this particular flavor, like this purple one. It's wild berry, I think is the official flavor. To me, it tastes like blueberry and I love it. It is so tasty. And I was a skeptic. I was the person that was like, a green health powder?
Ew.
Thank you, but no. Is there a donut sponsor? Because that's what I'm down for. How do we get a donut sponsor? No, I was very skeptical, but then they sent this and I tried it and I was like, okay, I get it now. I get it. Healthy does not have to taste yucky. This stuff is amazing. And if you try it, you can get 15% off your first order plus free rush shipping when you go to fogchicks, fogchicks.com and you use code chicks. You're going to notice a difference in your energy levels. You're even going to notice differences in your lab results at the doctors. So it's kind of a big deal. It's healthy, but delicious. Fogchicks.com. Use code chicks.
Do it. It's really interesting, but at the same time, and I'm just going to throw this in the mix, would those millennial kids have their parents come live with them when they get to the point where they need to like go live in a assisted living or whatever, because they want the village when they want help, but do they want the village when it's time to like take care of their mama or their dad? Like where's the line, Cause I mean, they're probably the same kids that are like, go ahead and live in that assisted living and spend $4 or $5 grand a month on that assisted living, mom and dad. But hey, I need help with childcare.
Yeah.
Putting that out there, So, I mean, if you want the village, then actually have the village,
Yeah. Well, and then there's this woman who you also found that says, some people maybe just aren't cut out to be grandparents or even parents for that matter.
Right.
I saw a video on here the other day. I cannot stop thinking about it, and I wish I could find it so I could share it with you. But essentially, it was saying like there are grandparents out there who just don't seem to have much interest in sort of like helping care or supporting the parents when they have their own kids. And there are grandparents out there that seem to want to be really involved in their grandkids' life and take great joy in it. And the grandparents who don't want to be very involved, don't offer help, don't offer support, it's possible that they just didn't enjoy parenting the first time around. They just didn't like the caretaking and they're not looking to do it again. Parents who are really involved and offer a lot of help really enjoyed being parents and enjoyed the caretaking, and they're looking to relive that joy. And that hit so hard. It hit so hard. And it makes a lot of sense. And I also found it incredibly freeing because, I mean, let's just take the judgment out of it. People are who they are. Not everyone is cut out to be parents. I wish we were having that conversation really honestly way earlier, because it would have saved whole generations from a lot of trauma. Let's take the judgment out of it. The part that was freeing to me is that it's not your fault. Adult child who has their own children, it's not about you. It's not about your kids. And it never was. I saw a video on here.
I think that's part of it. That could be part of it. I think there were some people in that generation, like in the boomer generation, that they maybe felt like they were obligated to have kids. So they had them. And then they were like, okay, I'm done. You know,
Right.
I'm not a kid to my grandkid. You know, it's like, I don't want to do it now. I want to have my time. And so I'm sure there are some people like that. But then there are some people where it's just different circumstances. Like, they want to see their grandkids when they want to see their grandkids, but they don't want to actually be the child. There's a line there, because taking care of a kid every single day and being daycare for a kid and not getting paid for it, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's an expectation there. When people become the actual caretaker for a child, that is hard. That can be hard every single day. And I see a lot of people, I don't want to say kids, but a lot of these young people, and I've had people in my family do it with like other family members where, you know, some of my cousins have used, like my great aunt, they've used her for childcare, and they take that for granted. And like, she literally has spent like 20 years of her life being basically a daycare worker.
Wow.
And, you know, she says she enjoys it, but I mean, it's a lot of work, you guys. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of like time that, you know, they just kind of expected that from her. So I don't know. I mean, I think sometimes people like older people, that maybe they just want some time on their own. You know, it's like, is that selfish? I don't know if that's selfish, or they still want to love their grandkids, but maybe they just want to have like a Monday off, or like, you know, they just want to have a day off, because every day taking care of your grandkids, that is an actual, it may not be a job to some people because they love their grandkids. I mean, I hate to say that it's a job, but at the same time, it is an obligation to some of these people. And when it becomes an obligation, then are you really enjoying that every single day? Do you get to do like the super fun things with it? I don't know, because I haven't been put in that position. I get to do the super fun things with my grandkids. You know, is it? I don't know. How would you feel about that if you were like put in a daycare position with your grandkid?
It's so hard to say. I remember when we first brought Jackson home, and it's like my mom, I remember her saying specifically that she had a biological pull to have him.
Right.
She wanted him all the time. And I feel like I will be that way. Like if Jackson has a kid, I will like want to inhale the child.
Yeah. And
all the time.
And I'm like that with Henry too, when I see him, but I don't know if I could juggle. I know I couldn't juggle a job and doing,
there's no way,
taking care of him every day. I couldn't do it. Just like
I couldn't be a full-time caregiver, and neither was my mom.
Right.
She worked, but like anytime she could be with Jackson.
Totally.
Or Thomas. I mean, she was, you know.
And that's where I feel for some of the people who are older and they're put in that position where the kids are like, you should be taking care of my kid. You know, it's like, well, some of these people are still working, and some of them still have obligations, you know, outside of the home. So I do feel that way for some of them, you know. Grandkids are a blessing. Total blessing.
For sure.